Because yesterday was Earth Day. My original plan was to read a couple of Psalms that I wrote that can be connected to Earth Day. I didn't write either one of them specifically for a single day. As my grandfather would say, howsomever, uh, Mark asked me if I would be willing to speak as led about um, where I personally am at this point in my story. Um, that's much easier to touch, obviously, than Psalms that I wrote in one case 6, 7 years ago. So here we are. Um, since October of 2001, I have dealt with put two cancers in my rearview mirror. And I'm at the beginning of dealing with another cancer, which is actually my fourth cancer. One of my dear friends approached my wife and said, I'm so sorry that Dwight's cancer has metastasized. She waited a couple of days before she told me he said this, and I said, babe, there is no shot that I use that word because that word scares me to death. And I didn't say it had metastasized. I said it was a new cancer. I have helped so many people die of cancer, with cancer, um, that I can't even count them. The one who stands out is my mother. She had a 14-month battle with it. And there were many things that we found mysterious about her battle, first with radiation, which I had with my first cancer, and then with chemotherapy, which I had with the second and third, and will be having with the fourth. Um, she and I were very close. There would not be me, obviously, as a human being, as a person, but she made me a human being. And she inspired me all of her life. Died at 44, which is way too young in my mind to go. But she only talked with me about her dying. She did not talk to me about what she was going through. One of my cousins asked me to do that on Facebook, and I prayed over it, and I decided that I would, and that I would do it every week. And I did it through the second and third cancers, and I'm doing it with the fourth. A good friend of mine contracted cancer after my third, and he said, Dwight, I don't have the strength to talk about mine on Facebook like you do. I'm sorry. And I said, don't be sorry because it has nothing to do with strength. What it has to do with is obedience. I'm glad you're not going to do it. It wasn't a choice of mine, it's what I felt the Holy One wanted me to do, to try to help other people understand those when they themselves are fighting a disease such as cancer, or they're trying to help somebody else who is in that particular battle. And people will tell me, "Oh, you're just so candid and so what is the word? Not forthcoming. It's one that we overuse in the 21st century, and most of the time people are lying when they're using it. Be that as it may, you know what I'm talking about. So anyway, um, There are times when it brings me to my knees. Literally, once I was knocked to my knees, but spiritually all the time. As a Quaker, I try, we emphasize prayer as listening, not as speaking. And I've said umpteen times to folk that the reason you don't get any answers to your prayers is because you run your mouth too much. If you shut up, you find out that you get an answer. Well, I'm trying to live my life to the best of my ability while it's still here, because nobody gets out of this alive. And last night, my wife and I, we went to hear one of our former students, because she taught him and I was his headmaster. He's a jazz musician. After his first set, he came to me and hugged me, and he said, "I love you so much." And before you, I thought that he's almost 30 now. Before you, I thought that the only way to come to settle conflict was fighting. But you taught me how to use nonviolence to do it. But now people are trying to run over me. And I said, don't think of nonviolence as being soft, because it isn't. Know who you are, stand on your own integrity, and don't be moved off that space. After I spoke with him, two people came up to me and said, who I know, "I've lost so much weight. Sometimes it's embarrassing. I'm glad you can't see my neck, because it scares me to death. I probably lost about 40 pounds. I'm surprised that you're out here. I didn't think you would be in public. Like, what am I hiding from? Yeah, I have nothing to hide from. And I'm not going to live my life waiting on cancer to kick my rear end. If I lose, I will lose with my integrity whenever that happens. I try my best not to whine, because I've been blessed far beyond what I dreamed would be my life when I was growing up in the projects, or when we were homeless for 7 years. How can I help but sing? And I don't define myself as being a cancer victim. I am a survivor. Victimization is like, I never see myself as a victim of anything. But when I look at who I am as a human being, part of it I have finally come to terms with. I will always be a cancer survivor. So it is a part of me, but so are my freckles. And so is the fact that I write songs, and that I write historical fiction, that I'm married, that I'm a father, that I'm a grandfather, that I love basketball, all of those things. They're part of who I am. And as I told a young man last night, don't let anybody else define you. And I told a guest that over dinner on Friday, he has made Aliyah in Israel, and he is back over here visiting for 3 months. And he said that the Israeli government is trying to take away the Jewish identity of people who immigrated from Russia, because for decades the Russian government would not permit religion, and so they lost their Jewishness when they were there, and so they're not legitimately a Jew. And I said, nobody can define me. You can't tell me I'm not a Quaker, or you can't tell me I'm not a Jew. And he said, oh yes, people can define you. I said, no. Now I'm sitting at the head of the table. if you're a guest at my table, you don't tell me that I am wrong. Sorry, it's true. You know, it's just like you don't say, well, I don't like where you have that picture. Why don't you move that picture over to the other side? You're my guest, but that doesn't mean that I have to listen and obey you as though you were the Holy One, because you're not. Okay. We define who we are. No outside force, even if that force is cancer. And the gentleman, he still didn't grasp what I was saying. And I said, you know, when we were kidnapped and brought as Africans into this country, the Constitution defined us as three-fifths people. That didn't make my ancestors think, oh, now I'm a three-fifths of a person, please. When we look at what's going on in our society today, and there are forces trying to limit our opportunities, we don't listen to that. If I had listened to the definitions, I'd still be living in a project. We have free will. And I don't know if the Holy One had it to do over again, she or he, if you want to use those pronouns, would say, okay, um, let me let these fools make their own decisions. I don't know, you know, because we made some very poor decisions. I don't know. But we do have free will. How we live, and in some cases, how we die. It's up to us. But I believe, as Malcolm X once said, that we can be free even while we're prisoners. I accept no limitations other than those that the Holy One puts on me, because there are things I cannot do. I will never score 44 or 60 points once in a game, basketball game again. I will never play football again. I will never produce a child again. Um, but that doesn't mean that I am a lesser human being. As the Holy One is quoted as saying, when Moses asked, what is your name? And in those days, people believed that in a name was power. One of my favorite verses is the Holy One is reported as having said, I am who I am. That's me. I am who I am. And some people will translate that I am who I am becoming. There's a slight paradox in there, but it's true. Because who I am right now is not who I will become this afternoon or tomorrow as it creeps into this petty pace from day to day. May we go into worship.